good. In the previous lecture, we have started with chapter 1 where we have discussed about the basics of economics. Our chapter name is Introduction to Micro and Macroeconomics, where we have learned what is economics all about, what are the things economics is going, what are the things that we are going to study under the economics. Then we have seen its branches of economics, that is micro and macro. Then we have also had a discussion about the historical review of microeconomics as well as the definition of microeconomics. Today we will start with the new topic under the heading of microeconomics, that is scope and subject matter of microeconomics. So before starting with the new topic, let's have a small revision on the previous lecture that we have done, so that the things can with what we have discussed, you can recall it and it can line up properly. So let's have a revision on the chapter 1 on the previous lecture. In chapter 1, our topic was Introduction to Micro and Macroeconomics. When we are saying introduction towards microeconomics and macroeconomics, so we should know what is economics all about. That we have discussed in the previous lecture. So let's see what is economics all about. Economics is, we have discussed about economics 2-3 definitions. Let's take one definition from it. Economic is science. It's a social science that studies, what it studies? Human behavior with effect to limited and unlimited wants and resources. What it is saying, limited and unlimited wants and resources, because under economics, kids, we are going to see it's a social science. It's like a social science because it is studying the social behavior of human beings, how they are going to react on the different perspective, on the different aspects. So it's a behavior that their wants are unlimited, but the wants are unlimited, but the resources are limited. As I have told you in the previous lecture, one example, suppose 500 rupees as your pocket money, can either spend with the friends on buying your shirt or buying textbook, going to movies, having pizza and so many things. But all those wants cannot be satisfied at a time. So only one or two wants can be satisfied with that 500 rupees note according to your priorities. Same way, so that 500 rupees note was the resource which was limited for that particular period of time, and the wants with those 500 rupees note that the child was thinking was unlimited. So it's the behavior of the child that we have seen through that example, how he is going to behave. So it is nothing but it's economics that studies the human behavior with effect to its limited and unlimited wants, because wants are unlimited but resources are limited, they are scarce. So we have to use those resources in the best way, so that with the minimum resource, optimum maximization of profit should be gained. So this was one of the definition of economics. There are more definitions, like we have seen, it's a social science that seeks to determine production, distribution and consumption of goods and services. It is talking about how much to produce, how to produce, what to produce, for whom to produce, how to distribute, to whom, for whom, what are the different ways to distribution, then how the people are consuming, whether they are satisfying or not. So this is all about, they are talking about production, distribution, consumption of goods and services. Indirectly, we are talking about their economical plannings, decisions and the other things. Then we have seen that economics is divided into two branches. What are those? Those two branches are micro and macro. Those two branches are microeconomics and macroeconomics. The word micro itself talks about small, and the word macro talks about large. When we are talking about microeconomics, let me tell you friends, these two words are formed by the Greek word. These two words are found by the Greek word micro and macro. In Greek word it is said to be a micros, and for macro it would be macros. The difference between micro and macro is of I and A. I stand for individual. When we are talking about micro, we are talking about small minute part. That means we are talking about its individual, particular. For example of microeconomics, we can say has study of particular firm, particular industry, individual household, individual consumption, individual output, individual textile industry, so on. Whenever we are talking about individual or particular students, we are talking about microeconomics. When we come towards the macroeconomics, that is MACRO, A is an aggregate. When we are talking about macroeconomics, we are talking about as in whole, as in total, as aggregate. So, for the example for macroeconomic is it's a study of total consumption, total output, aggregate income, aggregate functioning, the employment, poverty, the unemployment. When we are talking of the population, when we are talking about this topic, we are talking about macroeconomics. So microeconomics and macroeconomics are the two branches of economics where we are going to just see in micro a small and medium part, whereas in macro we are going to see in the large and aggregative study. So this was the difference of micro and macro. Then we have seen the historical review of microeconomics. The historical review, we have seen that Adam Smith, actually the microeconomics was first founded, this was traced in the neoclassical era. And Adam Smith, who is the founder of who is the father of economics as well as the founder of microeconomics, and he has wrote one of the book known with the name of Wealth of Nation, where he has described about how the price of the product and the factor prices are being determined. He have discussed about it. Then Professor Alfred Marshall was the person who made microeconomics famous and popular. Therefore, the Professor Alfred Marshall is said to be an architect of microeconomics. He is an architect. He is said to be an architect of microeconomics, and he has also wrote one of the book known with the name of Principle of Economics, which he has discussed about marginalism principle, law of demand, law of supply, and the various other laws, where Professor Alfred Marshall has discussed, and we are going to study in the future chapters. So this was the historical review that we have discussed in the previous class, as well as we have seen the definition that microeconomic is the study of particular firm, particular industry, particular household, consumption, individual. When we are talking about individual, so it is the definition for microeconomics by Kenneth Boulding, and more of the Morris Doerr also has said that microeconomics is a microscopic study. Why it is said to be a microscopic study? Like a small cell of the unit or a body part can be seen by the microscope. Same way, microeconomics also study the small tiny cells in detail. So this was the revision of the previous lecture. I give you 15 to 20 seconds to recall, to read page number 1 and 2. Then we will start with scope and subject matter of microeconomics. any kind of doubt, friends, you can ask me in the live session. If you have any doubt, you don't hesitate to ask the doubt. You can ask me freely. In the revision, let's discuss about the scope and subject matter of microeconomics. The scope and subject matter of microeconomics, they basically deals with some theories like product pricing, theory of factor pricing, theory of welfare. So, in your book, they are divided into 3 theories, but I will tell you that the scope and subject matter of microeconomics will divide into 2 theories. Let's see what are those 2 theories. Price theory and theory of welfare. Once again, see, when we are talking about scope and subject matter, there are the different theories that we are going to discuss under this topic, like theory of product pricing, factor pricing, the theory of welfare. So I have divided these theories into 2 parts. The first one is price theory, the second one is theory of welfare. When we are talking about the price theory is again bifurcated into 2 parts, that is product pricing and factor pricing. Let's see one by one. What is product pricing and what is factor pricing? Product pricing, when we are talking of the product, how the product of the price has been determined, we are going to discuss under product pricing. That means how the price of any commodity is determined. Students, it is determined by the demand and supply forces. So under product pricing, we are going to study about demand and supply forces or analysis. What does this mean? Demand and supply force is nothing but a market force. Demand and supply force is nothing but a market force. For example, how this price of the chalk is determined? It is determined by the demand and supply. How much the consumers are demanding and how much the producers are ready to supply. Where they are somewhere meeting, that particular price is decided as the price for this chalk. So, in product pricing we are talking about demand and supply forces, demand analysis and supply analysis. What does this demand analysis and supply analysis do? It tells about how the price of particular or any commodity is determined. How it is determined? It is determined by the market forces. What is market forces, friends? Market forces nothing but demand and supply forces. Demand and supply forces can be also said to be a demand analysis and supply analysis. And we are going to study this demand analysis and supply analysis as a chapter in the future. For now, understand this, that demand analysis and supply analysis comes under the market forces, and market forces where demand and supply meets, and where they meet, that point is said to be the price of that particular commodity. It can be any kind of commodity. It can be food grains, it can be luxurious, it can be durable commodity, it can be a luxurious commodity, it can be any commodity. When we are talking about factor pricing, what does factor pricing mean? Also, you know what are the factors of production. There are the 4 factors of production. What are those? If anyone can tell me. There are land, labor, capital and entrepreneur. There are 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. For providing service by land, it has been rewarded by rent. Land gets rent. Labor gets wages as well as salary. Once again, factor pricing means the factors of production. What are factors of production? production? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. These are the four factors of production. What are those? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. All these four factors of production, when they provide the services, they are getting certain rewards. For the providing service by land, it is getting rent. For the service provided by labor, it is getting wages and salary. What is difference between wages and salary, students? Wages, the person who is getting on a daily basis is said to be a wages. The person who is earning on the monthly basis is said to be a salary. So what the labor is getting, it is said to be a wages and salary. And one more thing, any kind of mental or physical exertion done for earning the money is said to be a labor in terms of economics. For capital, it would be interest, and for entrepreneur, the reward is profit or loss. So capital, whenever the person is putting some capital in the business, why he is putting the capital? So that he can earn some interest, whatever the capital he has been invested in the business. And what is entrepreneur? Entrepreneur is giving his thought, giving his ideas, his plans, his things. So what he will get? He will earn profit or loss. So whatever these factors of production are rewarded with, what are those rewarded with? Rent, wages, salary, interest, profit or loss. All this comes under what? Factor pricing. All this comes under factor pricing. I would like you to ask one question, that why product pricing and factor pricing comes under price theory? Why it is said to be price theory? Because in product pricing we are discussing about the price, and in factor pricing also we are discussing about the pricing. So therefore this too comes under the theory of price theory. Once again, product pricing and factor pricing comes under the theory of price theory, because in both they are discussing about the prices, therefore they are the price theory. I'll give you 2 seconds to read, or if you have to read product pricing and factor pricing. If you have doubt, you can ask me. Then we'll start with the theory of welfare. In scope and subject matter, we are going to discuss about the different theories. Basically, there are 2 theories, price theory and welfare theory of welfare. In price theory, we have discussed about product pricing and factor pricing. What is product pricing? Product pricing is nothing but how the prices of any commodity, for example, car, wheat, tomatoes, potatoes are decided. They are decided by how? They are decided by market forces. What is market force? Market force is nothing but demand and supply forces, which can be said as demand analysis and supply analysis. Then therefore it is said to be a product pricing. Then come towards the factor pricing. Factor pricing is, let's see what is factors of production. Factors of production are, there are 4 important factors of production: land, labor, capital and entrepreneur. For all these 4 important factors of production, they are rewarded with certain kind of reward they are getting in form of rent, wages, salary, interest, profit and loss. All this comes under the factor pricing. Why it is said to be a factor pricing? Because factors of production are getting certain rewards, like land is getting rent, labor is getting wages and salary, capital is getting interest, entrepreneur is getting profit and loss. So all comes under the factor pricing, because these are the reward for the factor of production. Same way, product pricing and factor pricing, in both the things we are discussing about the prices. Therefore this too comes under the heading of price theory. Also, you are understanding the scope of microeconomics. Let's discuss about the theory of welfare. What does this theory of welfare say about? When we are talking about theory of welfare is divided into 3 parts. What are those? In theory of welfare, we will discuss about efficiency. Efficiency is divided into three parts. What does, before discussing about the efficiency, let me tell you friends, what does welfare means. Welfare means for the well-being of the people, for the well-being of the society, for the well-being for the economy. So we will discuss about the well-being for the society, for the people, for the economics. So we will talk about the efficiencies. So under the theory of welfare, we will discuss about efficiencies. Efficiency in production, efficiency in consumption, and efficiency in overall efficiency of economy. So what does this efficiency say about production, consumption and overall efficiency? Let's discuss about that. When I have told you the theory of welfare, the word welfare itself says for the well-being of the society, for the betterment of the economic, for the betterment of the people. So in what sense they are saying for the betterment? Let's discuss. When we are saying about the theory of welfare, we are talking about efficiencies. What does this efficiency mean? This efficiency is divided into three parts or bifurcated into three parts. The first one is efficiency in production. The second one is efficiency in consumption. The third one is overall efficiency. Now, what does efficiency in production means? Friends, it means that, as I have told you, economics is the science that studies human behavior with respect to limited and unlimited what? When we are talking about efficiency in production, the resources are limited. But the producer should try to utilize those limited resources so that he can get maximum output. That means we can say when will the efficiency in production, how the producer will get in efficiency in production? The producer will get the efficiency in production by utilizing minimum resource and finding out maximum output. That means no resource should be wasted. Whatever resource that is available should be utilized in the best way so that no resource should be wasted, and from minimum resource maximum output should come out. So then only it will be said to be a efficiency in production. Once again, what does efficiency in production means? How will the producer will get efficiency in production? The producer will get efficiency in production by utilizing his best resources in such a way that no resource should be wasted. From the minimum resource, he should get maximum output without any waste of resource. Then only the producer will get efficiency in production. Efficiency in production. Now, what does efficiency in consumption means? What is efficiency in consumption? That means whatever producer has been produced in the best way, it should be distributed in such a way that it should reach to the maximum consumer. After reaching to the maximum consumer, they should consume it. After consuming, it should be satisfied by the consumer. If they will not satisfy, then the people will not demand for that commodity. That means whatever has been produced, it should be distributed in such a way that it should reach to the maximum consumer. After reaching to the maximum consumer, they should consume it and satisfy it. Then only it will be said to be an efficiency in consumption. Then only we will say efficiency in consumption. Two efficiencies I have explained you. The first one was efficiency in production. The second one was efficiency in consumption. Both are overlapping. How? In efficiency in production, the producer should utilize the whatever resource he is having in such a way that from the minimum resource he should get maximum output without any waste of resource. Then only it will be said to be an efficiency in production. What does efficiency in consumption means? Whatever producer has been produced, it should be distributed in such a way that it should reach to the maximum consumer. After reaching to the maximum consumer should satisfy it, and after satisfy, consumer should consume it and then satisfy. Because when the consumer will satisfy, then only they will demand for the commodity again and again. So then only it would be said to be efficiency in consumption. I'll give you again some time to understand both the points. If you have doubt, note down the doubt in one register or in your economics register, so that you can remember your doubts during the live session to ask me. I have explained you 2 points. Read, understand, then we will go towards overall efficiencies. We have discussed price theory, we have discussed theory of welfare. In theory of welfare, we have seen the 2 points. In price theory, we have completed the price theory with product pricing and factor pricing. Efficiencies, theory of welfare. Welfare means well-being of the people. It is talking about the efficiencies. Efficiency means efficiency in production, efficiency in consumption, overall efficiency. Efficiency in production means to produce from the minimum resource. It should be produced in such a way that from minimum resource maximum output should come and no resource should be wasted. Efficiency in consumption means whatever has been produced should be distributed in such a way that it reach to the maximum consumer. They should consume, they should satisfy it, and then only it will be said to be efficiency in consumption. Hope so you are understanding what does theory of welfare is talking about. Theory of welfare also deals with allocating of resources. How to allocate resources that they can allocate in efficient manner. What are those efficient manner? With maximization of satisfaction. How maximization of satisfaction will be done? Through efficiencies. What are those efficiencies? That we have already discussed. Let's discuss about overall efficiency. What does overall efficiency means? The friends, overall efficiency means to produce those goods which are mostly desired by the people. Once again, overall efficiency, when the consumer and producer both will get an efficiency, that is said to be an overall efficiency. Overall efficiency means to produce those goods that are mostly desired by the people. He should not produce according to the producer wish. The producer should produce according to the consumer wish. Therefore, it is said to be to produce those goods which are mostly desired by the people. So there are certain questions that we have to see: what to produce, for whom to produce, what quantity should be produced, how to produce, what are the resources that should be required for production. So these are the certain questions that will come under the overall efficiency. So what does overall efficiency means? To produce those goods which are mostly desired by the people. And what are the, how he will find out, how he will produce those goods? By thinking about the certain questions like what to produce, for whom to produce, what quantity should be produced, what are the factors that are required, how the resource would be allocated, how those resources will come together in one place, how to allocate those resources. So this comes under the overall efficiency. When we are talking about efficiency in production, consumption, overall efficiency, that means this all three are coming under the welfare, for the well-being of the society. When we are talking about for the welfare of the society or theory of welfare, we are finding about allocation of resource, how the resource is allocated in efficient manner. What are the efficient manner? From meaning how to maximize the satisfaction, how it would be a maximizing satisfaction with the efficiency in production, efficiency in consumption, efficient overall efficiency. We will see the we will talk about the welfare of the society. So this was the scope of microeconomics. After this scope, let's come under the subject matter. What does subject matter of microeconomics says about? See, when I have explained you the meaning and the definition of microeconomics, the microeconomics studies small and myriad part. What does it mean? It studies individual. That means if microeconomics talks about particular firm, particular industry, individual household, individual consumption, individual output, etc. So what does it mean? This subject matter talks about microeconomic only talks about particular individual, so it is said to be an individualistic study. But microeconomic will not study about whole and aggregate. It would be discussed under microeconomic. Therefore, microeconomic will not talk about poverty, will not discuss about unemployment, about population, about national income, about national output, total consumption, total output, aggregative things. So microeconomic will deal only about the individual and particular. It will not study about the total aggregate as in whole thing. Like I have told you, like poverty, population, unemployment, the total output, total consumption, aggregate demand, aggregate supply, it will not talk. But individual demand, individual supply would be studied under the microeconomic, but aggregative demand or aggregative supply would be studied under the macroeconomic. So subject matter of microeconomic is it will study only small and individual part or particular part, but whole and aggregative study it will not come under the topic of microeconomics. So this was all about scope and subject matter of microeconomics. Again, I will give you some time to read, recall, understand. Then we have a small revision for today's topic, as well as we'll have a small revision towards today's topic, as well as we'll start with some of the features of microeconomics. Today I will not discuss all the features of microeconomics, but some of the starting features of microeconomics we will discuss for that. in efficiency, in direction of production or overall efficiency means production of those goods which are most desired by the people. So microeconomic shows under certain condition. So they looks after price theory and allocation of resources, how they will do with certain question, what goods are to produce with in what quantity, who will produce them and how, to whom and how the wealth of so produced shall be distributed, what shall be the resource be allocated for production, consumption in efficiency manner. So these are the certain question that is discussed under the microeconomic. Under the subject matter, I have told you microeconomic is mainly confined to the theory and resource allocation. It will not study of aggregates related to whole economic. It does not study national income, economic problems like unemployment, poverty, inequalities, theory of growth, theory of business fluctuation, monetary fiscal policies are beyond microeconomics approach. This all comes under the macroeconomics. Okay, let's have a small revision. Before starting with the revision, as I have told you that we have certain features, we will discuss certain one or two features of microeconomics. So let's see some features. I will not explain you all the features today because it should be not the initial stages of learning economics. Overdose should not be given. I know for some of students this much also is an overdose, but still for completing the course as well as to get more revision during the end session of the 12th standard, we should be in the same the way of length we should discuss. So let's see some of the features. I don't have space, so I am writing here. Features of microeconomics. The first feature that I am going to tell is its definition itself, study of individual unit. What does the first feature say? It studies the individual unit. The microeconomic definition, meaning, feature, example itself states that the microeconomic studies the individual unit such as particular firm, particular industry, individual household, individual consumption, individual output, individual distribution. So this all the demand, individual demand, individual supply, form of particular market. This all comes under the feature, under the study of individual unit. So the first feature of microeconomic, the definition itself is the first feature, that is study of individual unit. It studies the individual unit in detail, for example, such as individual firm, industry, household, consumption, etc. The second feature is price theory. price is determined. So this is the reason why I have started with the feature, because see, the price theory in subject matter itself we have discussed. The price theory is nothing about how the price of particular commodity and how the prices of factors are determined. So that is discussed under the price theory. For example, in the price theory, how the price of particular commodity, it is determined by demand and supply force, and the rewards of factors of production like rent, wages, interest, salary, cap profit or loss comes under the price theory. Therefore, this was the reason why in the starting scope and subject matter itself I have given the heading product pricing and factor pricing as price theory, because this price theory is one of the feature of microeconomic. For today we will discuss only two features. We'll keep list for the next class. The reason I started the feature was price theory and individual unit that we have already covered in today's topic, so that it would be easier for you to remember. Let's have a small revision. We have discussed about economics. It's a social science that studies human behavior with effect to limited and unlimited wants. Then we have seen the economics branches micro and macro. Micro is about small, million part, whereas macro talks about large and aggregative study. For this both comes under the Greek word micros and macros. For micros and macros, these two words were first coined by Randolph Frisch in the theory in the Oslo University. He was the person who have coined and used these two words. Micro talks about small and particular things, whereas macro talks about whole, aggregate and total. Then we have discussed about the historical review. Adam Smith, the father of economics and also the founder of microeconomics. He have discussed all this in the books of Wealth of Nation. Then Alfred Marshall was, there were more economics who have come and discussed about microeconomics like J.M. Mills, David Ricardo, all these are certain economists. And then Alfred Marshall was the person who has made microeconomics most familiar and the famous, therefore he is said to be an architect of microeconomics, as well as he has also wrote a book known with the name of Principle of Economics, where he has discussed about marginalism principle, demand analysis, law of supply, law of diminishing marginal utility. Then we have discussed about the definition of microeconomics, then the scope and subject matter for today's topic. In scope and subject matter, we have seen price theory and theory of welfare. In price theory, we have seen product pricing. Product pricing talks about demand analysis and supply analysis. With this analysis, the price of any commodity can be determined. Then we have discussed about factor pricing. Factor pricing is the rewards given to the factors of production, that is rent, wages, salary, interest and profit. This too comes under the heading of price theory. Then we have seen the theory of welfare. In theory of welfare, we have seen how the resource is been allocated. It is allocated through the efficient manner for the well-being of the people. How it is been efficient manner to maximize the satisfaction. How it will be maximize satisfaction through the efficiencies. Efficiency in production, efficiency in consumption, efficiency overall efficiency or efficiency in direction of production. What is efficiency in production? The producer should produce the goods in such a way that no resource should be wasted. From the minimum resource, he should maximize his output. The output should be maximum. What is efficiency in consumption means? Efficiency in consumption means whatever it has been produced by the producer, it should be distributed in such a way that it reaches to the maximum consumer. They should satisfy it and they should demand it for the next time also. Overall efficiency means the producer should produce those goods which are mostly desired or demanded by the people. How he will do? By allocating some resources. There are certain questions like what to produce, for whom to produce, what quantity should be produced, how he will produce those quantity, what are the resources should be allocated, how he will distribute those commodity what has been produced. So these are the certain questions. Then we have seen about the subject matter. Microeconomic talks about small and medium part. It will not discuss about the problem of economic problem like inequality, unemployment, population, fiscal policy, monetary policy, inflation, deflation, output, total consumption, gross national income. It will not discuss about it. It will discuss about particular and individual part only. Then we have started at the end of the class, we have discussed about the features of microeconomics, study of individual unit and price theory. My first feature is study of individual unit. That means study the individual unit in detail such as particular firm, industry, individual consumer, individual output. Then the theory, price theory talks about the product pricing and factor pricing. Where they had how the price of commodities determined and how the price of factors are determined under the price theory we have discussed. Here we will end the session for today's class. In the next class we will carry forward with the features. The remaining features we will discuss in detail, as well as we will discuss the importance of microeconomics. So read page number 1, 2 and 3 nicely. If you have doubt, you can ask me anytime.